Hello Shapeoko users, this is Charlie Thomas with Triquetra CNC. Well, I finally got the zeroing script working with the Carbide Motion. So you no longer need to use a third-party G-code sender if you don't want to, and you can continue to use Carbide Motion the way you always have, with the exception of the zeroing process. The script that I've written will zero all three axes, or just your Z-axis if you prefer. Future enhancements to it will include zeroing to the right corner versus the left, and zeroing to any offset location on your material that you like. For the last several days, or actually a couple of weeks, I've been working with a fellow by the name of Dan Nelson. He's a Shapeoko 3 or Shapeoko XXL, I believe it is, owner, and he volunteered to help me out with this. So anyway, I worked with him through email and text messaging and a couple of phone calls, and we tweaked on the script until we got it where it works like it is now. Yesterday, drove about a 150-mile round trip to get video of his actual machine using this script and actually zeroing all three axes. So the video that you see of his machine moving around is his actual machine using this script, and you will be able to do the same thing. So without further ado, let's get going and I'll show you how to do this. The script is loaded by double clicking on the script file. You won't see anything happen when you double click on it, but it's loaded into memory and ready to run. To start the script, after you've double clicked on it, you hold down the control key and tap the letter A on your keyboard. This box shows you how to abort the script. If you need to stop the script from executing for some reason, just hit the escape key on your keyboard and it won't send any more commands to your machine. Just keep in mind though, any commands that have already been sent will still execute. So if you're have an emergency situation and you have to stop immediately, just hit the e-stop button on your controller and that'll stop everything from happening. This box is just telling you to open up Carbide Motion and have it ready to go. Most likely already have it open, but if you don't, this is just a reminder to open it up. This box is a set of instructions on where to position your bit before zeroing the X, Y, and Z axis. In this close-up picture here, you can see that the bit is positioned about 1/2 inch from the back edge of the touch plate along the right hand side, shown by these two arrows. You can also see that the bit is about 1/8 of an inch above the board that the touch plate is sitting on. This is one of the most critical steps in getting Carbide Motion ready to accept the zeroing commands. In this box, you're instructed to delete any data or commands that are present in the data entry field on the MDI tab. Once it is empty, click one time inside the data entry box. This will set the insertion point for the G-code commands that will be sent to Carbide Motion by this script. Once the data entry field is empty and you have clicked one time inside it, do not click anywhere else on your computer while the zeroing process is working, except for the pop-up boxes as they appear. These next two boxes go by fairly quick. The first one is the zeroing method, where you select whether you want to zero all three axes or just the Z axis. The next one is the bit selection. The script looks at your touch plate measurements and determines if they are in inches or millimeters. In this case, they're in inches because the touch plate was measured in inches. If it were measured in metric millimeters, then the metric equivalents would be offered here. If none of these bits match what you're using, you can always click the custom button and enter any diameter that you like. Just be sure to use the same units, being either inches or millimeters, whichever is displayed here. This box asks you to confirm the bit diameter. If that's not correct, click the no button and it'll take you back and let you reselect. If this is the correct bit, displayed here, then then you click on yes, the next thing that happens is you'll actually start zeroing finally. Believe it or not, this entire process up to this point will take you about 15 seconds at the most. This box will appear each time you start probing one of the axes. This one is for the x-axis. There will be one for the y and z as well if you're zeroing all three. They represent the timer that is used to automatically move to the next step. Once your bit touches the touch plate and stops, you can bypass these timers by hitting the space bar. Hitting the space bar after your bit makes contact and stops moving will greatly shorten the total time it takes to zero your machine. If you don't hit the space bar, the script will continue automatically when the timer runs out or when the blue bar gets full. Okay, it's time to zero this machine. Once the bit confirmation button is clicked in this box, the process will begin. Watch closely and you'll see the timer box pop up when the bit starts probing. After the bit makes contact, Dan will hit the space bar to bypass the timer. Next will be the same process for the y-axis, and then after the z-axis is zeroed, Dan will hit the space bar again and you'll see the bit raise up slightly, then move to the right and back 1 inch. This is followed by a red warning box that tells you to remove the touch plate and magnet before clicking the Go to Zero button. If you fail to remove the touch plate before clicking the Go to Zero button, then your machine will try to bury the tip of the bit into the top of your touch plate when it moves to XYZ0. It's always a good idea to remove the magnet every time you remove the touch plate. This will help prevent you from forgetting to remove the magnet and starting your spindle. So here's the actual probing process in real time. Okay, zeroing the x-axis, the bit stops, the timer pops up waiting for the space bar to get hit. Okay, now we're repositioning for the y-axis and it's probing. Once it stops, you'll see the pop-up box with the timer on it again. There's the pop-up box with the timer. He hit the space bar. Now it's moving over to do the z-axis. By the way, if you do the z-axis, this is where you position your bit to start with. Now it's moving up and back out of the way. Red warning box comes up telling you to remove the touch plate and the magnet, and then you click on Go to Zero, and there goes your machine to XYZ0. Finally, you get the last pop-up box, the green one there. It's just telling you that everything is done. You can click on Finish, and they're done. After the script finishes, you'll be back in Carbide Motion. At that point, you can load your carving files and just carve away. The zeroing script will no longer be resident in memory, so if you need to run it again for some reason, you'll have to go back to the zeroing script file and double click on it to reload it. One thing I didn't show you in this video, but I did mention it during the zeroing process you just watched, was the position of your bit if you're zeroing just the z-axis only, in which case you'll position the bit over the top of the touch plate near that back right corner where it zeros anyway if you do all three axes. Another thing that's not in this video that I'm putting into this script is a expert mode and a normal mode. Normal mode will show you all the pop-up boxes as you go throughout the zeroing script. The expert mode will eliminate most of those. You'll still have some that you have to confirm, like your bit selection, and then the last one, your bit confirmation for sure, but it'll take out the rest of that stuff. So after you've used this a few times and you're comfortable with it and you know what is going to happen, you can click on expert mode when you first launch the script, and it'll bypass all those pop-ups that you don't need to see anymore. And at any time, if you want to watch them again, you just click on normal mode and it'll run with all the pop-ups. So that'll make it a little more convenient for you if once you've used it enough. So keep an eye out for updates to the Triquetra toolbox if you're a touch plate owner or a toolbox owner, and download the updates as they come out, and there will be enhancements to this script and other parts of the toolbox. So If you have any questions, you can always go to my website and send me an email or contact me through the forums. Thank you very much, and happy zeroing.
Penny Lane, there is a barber showing photographs.